Mercosur deal to save EU businesses €4 billion due to
Okay, mic check, 1 2 1 2. Let me know if you can hear the mic, everybody. Okay, welcome everyone to the Pro Trade Room Plus. NFP is the U.S. Jobs Report. My name is Lee Goldstein, the Trading Director at 10-Minute Trades. Please remember all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. I am not a financial advisor. It is possible to lose money trading futures. Good morning, everyone, and I want to welcome everyone who's watching us on YouTube. Thanks for being here. I guess the mistake I'm making is I haven't made enough money because Bill Belichick is 72 years old and he has a 24-year-old girlfriend. I think it's really simple that there's only one thing that matters in life: how much money you have. That's it. Nothing else matters. How much money do you have? Bill Belichick has a lot of money. Bill Belichick has a 24-year-old girlfriend. Anyway, I don't even want a girlfriend. I want a winning trade. So let's have a winning trade this morning. What do you say? Let's talk about the U.S. jobs report this morning. We actually have 3 possible ways that you can trade this. Now, I'm not seeing my webcam
says that Hexeth will be
on
a
YouTube.
fantastic Secretary of Defense. A secured overnight financing rate 4.59.
My guess is the webcam doesn't show up unless I move it onto the chart like this. If I move it onto the chart like that, then I think the webcam shows up. That's very distracting. Let's see if it, yeah, there it is. That's what happens. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now because I need this space on the right anyway. All right, everybody. So we have 3 ways that you could actually trade this report. 2 official and 1 unofficial. Now, official is a breakout with gold. That's one official way to trade this report. Official breakout with gold. And if you notice, 2 out of the last 3 have stopped. But if you go out further, 4 out of the last 6 have been winners. So I still think that we should be sitting good on this trade. It was stopped last month. So here's how I'm trading it. I'm trading it as a breakout. I'm going to trigger my trade at 8:29:59. My bracket is 30. My stop is 35. This is a trade that can absolutely damage an account. It can build an account incredibly. There's no question this is a risky trade. Margins are up. The brokers raise margins. Everybody we know, everybody that knows us understands this is a risky trade. I'm going to trade 2 positions on it. And I'm going to be looking for, I don't like to even tell what my targets are going to be on this trade because when this trade wins, it usually makes over 100 gold ticks. But we also know that the trade chops around a lot. And you actually have a better chance of winning most of the time if you go for a less greedy target. So I would go for targets somewhere between 10 and 70 ticks. That's the way that I would do it. Okay? That's the way that I would do it. I'm not saying you want to absolutely do what I do, but I find it's a better trade to just take less ticks out of it. So I've got one position size 1 is a 1. That means I've got 1 contract for target 1. Position size 2 is a 1. That means I have a second target for target 2. And I'm going to look for somewhere between 14 and 40 ticks. That's all I'm going for. My stop is 35. If it hits my first target, I'll move my stop to break even with the target 1 stop move. I label the trade, of course. It's a breakout, and my breakout is gold. And I'm going to save a template with today's date, Nfp GC 12/6/24. And then we're going to set our time to 0 for a moment, and we're going to apply it, and we're going to enable the trade, and we're just going to look and see where our brackets are
Order
going to line
submitted.
up. And there's my brackets. Usually we're in a fairly tight
Order
range
canceled.
at the time of this trade because the market is waiting for the news, and gold is in a pretty tight range. It's a little bit bullish, but it's not far from the high. It's not, I mean, it's not super close, but it's not miles away this time of day. This time of day, of course, the ranges are tighter because we haven't been trading as long. The markets aren't open. They haven't been open as long as they are when you get to noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. when you enable a trade that has 0 time, it allows you to manage your brackets. It
Order submitted.
shows you where your brackets are. You don't want them scrunched up like this because you can't manage the trade like that. That's why I set the time to 0
Order canceled.
temporarily. And then I just put it back to normal. 829.59. Bracket of 30. Stop of 35. Choose your targets. Okay. Then we have a cash trader possible trade. A trade that in general we have liked over the years, and that would be bonds. But if you're a prop trader, and I'm not going to talk about how I really feel deep in my heart about prop trading and the fact that you can't trade bonds and how egregious that is. I'm not going to talk about
Order
that.
submitted. Order canceled.
Let's make sure that our time was put back on gold, right? 829.59. Don't forget to choose your account that you're trading in, right? Everybody can hear me just fine, right? We have some nice folks watching us on the internet. All right, let's choose our account. Apply and OK. Put your charts on the account that you're trading. All right. I have a whole bunch of accounts, just like most people do. Now, unofficial trade, before I get to bonds, unofficial MNQ. MNQ. 80 bracket on the MNQ. This is an unofficial trade, not very well tested, but it's an interesting possible setup. As a breakout, trigger at 829.59. Bracket is 80. Stop is 200. And position 1 is a 1, position 2 is a 1. And I've got a target of 30. And I've got a target of 80. And if my first target gets hit, I'm going to move my stop to break even. I don't know that I would trade the NQ on this trade. This is not a trade I personally would recommend the NQ, Rob. But it would be the same bracket.
IAEA Chief Grossi says
If we get a breakout for all, if you get the kind of trade that's a breakout for all, then the NQ is a good instrument to trade. If it's whippy, then the NQ is murderous to trade on this report, as is the MNQ. MNQ but most people can't afford to use a 200 tick stop on the NQ. So if you get those whips, you're going to get stopped out on the NQ. But if I were going to trade the MNQ, I would absolutely use the same bracket. Absolutely, absolutely use the same bracket. I know this event is risky, and I know gold's difficult, but I do prefer gold as my main choice on this report. I realize it could be a difficult trade because gold, we don't love the way gold's been trading for weeks. So there's definitely extra risk. MNQ 829.59, bracket of 80. The stop is 200, targets of 30 and 80. I'm not even going to manage the trade. I probably should only trade gold, which is what I think I'm going to do. I don't think it's smart to try and set up a trade that could be really difficult to manage both trades. I'm going to concentrate on my gold trade this morning. But if I were going to trade the MNQ, that's the unofficial, it's an unofficial setup. It's not on the DMM. But it does sometimes require that you manage the trade because the market sometimes will not put the stops on the chart properly, and you might have to exit manually. So you want to be aware of all of those things that could happen. All right. So MNQ, that is a possible setup. Bracket of 80, stop of 200, targets anywhere between 20 and 150. I don't think that's crazy. Trigger 829.59. Now for cash bond traders, you can trade ZN, you can trade ZF. If bonds have a good trade, ZN, ZF, ZB, they usually all will move nicely if there's a good breakout for all today. Let me also remind everyone to go to the website. Time is, okay, and check your time sync. No trap levels at all on this one, Adam. You just have too much inconsistent size movements for me to have a trap trade. We have one trader out there on the internet. There's one trader out there on the internet. One of our lifetime software owners, he does have a trap trade set up for this. I don't know if he's out there. Dutchy, if you're out there, type in your NQ trap trade. And Liz, we don't trade a lot of ES trades. We have some ES trap trades. In general, the ES just hasn't had great news trading setups. If the setups were great, we would use the ES. The ES has not been great at the exact moment of the news for a lot of setups. As a trap trade, we have quite a few ES trap trades. In fact, let me look at my notes. Our second trade today, we have an ES trap trade. If I were trading cash, I would be looking at bonds. ZN 0325. As a breakout, we have a setup for bonds for ZN 829.58 on the trigger. The bracket is 7. And then position size 1 is a 1, position size 2 is a 1. Then we've got targets of 7 and 15. I would probably use a stop. The stop of 12 to 15 is acceptable. And I would use the target 1 stop move. If my first target gets hit, I would move my stop to break even. That would be my bond trade. If I were trading ZF, I would definitely use the 15 stop. ZN, our stop is 12. And then it's very important to label the trade, ZN or ZF, however you're trading it. And then do the same thing with your brackets. Make the time 0 for a moment. The first number in the time is a 0. Make sure you're on sim. You don't want to put yourself in a
Order
trade
submitted.
by accident. And then adjust your tiers so you can manage the trade. That's the only
Order
reason
canceled.
we do that. It's just for trade
By the
management.
UK's chief
It's
grocer,
not for
we're
any
able to
other
learn
reason.
how much more of the 5 to 7 kilogram a month Iran's production rate of uranium enriched to 60%
And then put the
is
time
expected to
back
increase. It said 7 to 8 times more
and
uranium.
re-enable your trade. So now I will
Brings us now to
watch
10
the
minutes
bond
trades for the
trade.
bottom of the hour, where we do see the release of the highly anticipated
ZF, I would use a
payrolls report
15
for the month of
stop.
November. Forecast 220k on the prior 12k, with a range of 275k to 155k expected.
Now on the
Unemployment
jobs
rate
report,
forecast 4.1% from the prior 4.1%. Range of 4.3 to 4% expected.
unemployment rate
Average earnings
4.1,
year over year forecast 4.9% on
220
the
on
prior
the
4%,
non-farm
with a range of
payrolls.
4% to
All right, that's a
4.8%.
very important
Month
number.
over month forecast 0.3%
That
to
number is going to
0.4%.
significantly affect
Average
this
work week
report,
hours forecast 34.3 on the prior 34.3.
and it's
Private sector
radically
forecast
different
205k
from
on the month 98k.
investing.com. So there could be
Manufacturing
a little
payroll
bit of
forecast 30k on the prior
disagreement on the
minus
calendars
26k.
today.
And labor force
I'm not
participation forecast
very interested
60.3%
in the
on the prior
Canadian news.
62.6%. With this, we also get the Canadian employment data
There's
for the month
also
of November.
Canadian
Employment
jobs.
change forecast
It is a
4.5k on the
tradable
prior
report,
14.5k,
usually with
range of
very difficult
46.1 to 5k
liquidity.
expected. Unemployment rate forecast 6.6% on the prior 6.5%, with a range of 6.7 to 6.4% expected. Average hourly earnings year over year forecast 4.7%, prior 4.9%, and the Canadian
I, for
participation
one,
rate forecast
think that
64.9% on the
if
prior
you can't trade
64.3%.
bonds,
So ahead of this US
then
jobs
you
report,
don't have a
resourcing
legitimate
supplementary from
trading
Wells
system.
Fargo, they note that the noise in the
That's
October
my
jobs
personal
report from
opinion.
Hurricanes Helene and
Bonds are one
Milton,
of the
as well
most
as multiple strikes,
important
have meant the mere 12k rise
instruments
in unemployment
to be able
must
to
be taken
trade.
with a large grain of salt.
And if you can't trade bonds, you don't have a
However, Wells
legitimate
Fargo note
trading
that through the
system.
temporary distortions,
That's
the
my
report shows
opinion.
signs of
It's just an
continued softening in the
opinion.
labour market. Job growth
Okay?
in August and September was
You don't
revised
have to
down by a
agree with me.
cumulative 112k, suggesting that September's stellar report was not as strong as previously believed. Hiring was primarily driven
ZF,
by
I would
healthcare and
use a
government
15
sectors.
stop.
The
Any
unemployment rate, which is
questions?
most
Anybody
closely
have any
affected by the
questions?
hurricanes and strikes, rose by nearly
So I've
0.3%
got
of on an unrounded
A
basis
gold
only.
trade set up
Other expectations in this report was Fargo expect hiring bounce back in November, with payrolls rising by about 230K, which is
in
above the median estimate
October.
of
This is what our
220K.
Okay,
trade
welcome
looked
everyone to
The
the
like.
Pro
conclusion of
Trade
a number of
Plus,
strikes,
We've
most
made
notably at
the
Boeing,
U.S.
thousands of
Jobs
dollars
Report.
on
roughly
this report,
40,000 for the month.
and we've lost
Fargo also
thousands
looked
of
for
dollars on
improvement to
this
be lifted by
report.
the resumptions of normal
I've been
business
trading
operations in the
this
Southeast
report
after the
for
disruptions caused by the
seven and a
Norman
half
hurricane.
years.
That said, the lower survey response rate, the lowest seen in 30 years,
Seven
along
and
with
a
the
half years
historical
since the
trend
day
in
I
storm
got
revisions
here.
following major hurricanes, suggest that some of the storm related rebound could show up in the monthly
This
revision
was
rather than
October.
November's headline number.
This is what this report can look like. October was a fabulous trade. Was a very nice winner. Bonds was on the right. Gold was on the left. Last month was not so nice to us. Here's last month. Last month, I believe we had a whipsaw. That was a whipsaw. All right. So it did not work. Did not work. It happens. It happens. There's no guarantee we get a perfect move out of this report. There are no guarantees. Then if we go back to, bear with me one second. If we look at August, June, July, and
In
August,
5 minutes' time now, at the bottom of the hour, see the release of
here's
the highly
July.
anticipated US non-farm payrolls report for the month of November.
The thing you
Estimated to be
must
above
realize, if brokers
220K
raise
but below
margins on a
12K, with a
report,
range of
it means there's
265K to
extra risk on a
255K
report.
expected. The unemployment rate forecast 4.1% from the prior 4.1%, with a range of 4.3 to
This was
4% expected.
July,
Average earnings year over year
July
forecast
5th.
3.9% from the prior 4%, with a range of 4% to 3.8%. Average earnings month over month forecast 0.3% on the prior 0.4%. Average work week hours forecast
So just don't
34.3 from the
forget, this
prior
is high risk.
34.3. US private
You don't
payrolls
have to trade
forecast
it if you don't want to
209K
take the
from the
risk.
prior minus 28K, and
You
manufacturing
can use
payrolls
micro
forecasted
gold.
30K from the prior
We
minus
made
26K.
$2,000 on that
Labor force
trade,
participation forecast
trading cash in
62.7%
July.
from the prior 62.6%. With this data, we also see Canada's employment data for November as well. Their employment change forecast 25K from the prior 14.5K, range of 46.1K to 5K expected. Unemployment rate forecast 6.6% from the prior 6.5%, with a range of 6.7 to 6.4% expected. Average hourly earnings year over year
Okay.
forecast
I am
4.7%
hearing in
from the
my
prior
headset
4.9%, and the Canadian participation rate
Financial Juice
forecast
discussing what they
6.29%
think
from the
may
prior
happen on this trade.
64.8%.
Financial Juice is a really good news trading website.
To look
They
to
have a
now to
squawk box,
SocGen, who increase in non-farm payrolls
and their
to
squawk box
185,000 in November. If the
tells the
projected
news
figure without
result.
major
So
revisions
you
to the prior
can
month,
wear a
the
headset
three-month average gain
and
would
you can
sit at
just
around
listen to the news.
140,000 per month. There is considerable
It's a
uncertainty regarding the underlying strength of
really
the
good
headline,
website.
and SocGen believe that it is moderating, as indicated by the three-month trend in the accompanying chart that they provided. So at 140,000 per month, it may not be a fully
Now, you
recovered
could
headline for
also, there's
SocGen,
not a lot
targeting
of
around
time here.
170,000 new
There's
jobs
not a lot of
are needed
time.
to stabilize the unemployment rate.
Probably not enough time. MGC 0225. Just putting on a chart here,
So SocGen Safety
putting
Link
on
latest
a
insurance reports show that the number
reverse
of individuals seeking
continuation
unemployment
setup,
benefits remains elevated since the hurricanes, providing a reason to anticipate a moderate
two
rebound,
gold
following the
positions,
12,000 worker gain in October. So
a
SocGen
50
anticipates the
target,
unemployment rate to increase to 4.2% in November, which is above the
a
median
50
expectations of
stop.
4.1%.
Just calling it REV, REV. And if I want, I've got myself a setup, a discretionary setup that I can use after the news if I want. Okay, that's an extra trade chart. And I could use that after the news if I wanted to. Now I'm going to be concentrating and watching my gold breakout. There is a bond breakout also taking place on the right.
1 minute remaining. I'll lead with non-farm payrolls.
Okay, let's just concentrate on our breakout. Arthur, I listen to Financial Juice Pro in my headset.
10 seconds.
Order submitted. Order submitted. Order filled.
Unemployment rate 4.2%, 4.2% higher than forecast,
Order
4.1%.
filled.
Average earnings year over year at 4%, 4% higher than forecast, 3.9%.
So for my
Labor
trade,
markets,
my
the
gold
S&P
trade
500
did
weakness in the
not
dollar
work.
now as
It
well.
did not work.
Canada employment
I have to
range
look at the video
50.5k,
to see
50.5k
what
higher
happened.
than forecast,
The
25k.
gold trade did
Unemployment
not
rate at
work.
6.8%, 6.8%
There's mixed
higher than
news. You've
forecast,
got
6.6%.
194 jobs
Recap then,
created,
non-farm payrolls came in 224k,
194 jobs created.
227k, higher than forecast, 220k. Private payrolls 194k,
I was filled
194k,
and
that's lower than
stopped.
forecast,
Filled
205k.
and stopped.
Workweek hours 34.3, 34.3
Filled
as
at
expected. Average earnings month over month, spot 4%, that's 0.4%, higher than forecast,
2661.40.
0.3%. Manufacturing payrolls at
2661.40.
22k, 22k, lower than forecast, 30k. Labor force
And just
participation at
was not a
62.5%,
very good
62.5%. That's lower
follow
than
through.
forecast,
Not a very good
62.5%.
follow through. Not a very good move.
Short-term interest rate futures juicing
Now,
now after the November
it
jobs
looks
report,
like,
as traders price in a bigger chance of Fed rate cuts. As traders now seeing 85% chance of a Fed rate cut this month
it looks
versus just
like
67% before the report. So again, seeing weakness in the dollar here, strength in the S&P 500.
initially I thought it looked like gold maybe wanted to move to the upside, but the ranges are very, very tight. The ranges are very tight.
Also noting prior revisions here, non-farm payrolls prior revised up to 36k.
So let me put the news back on. It's almost impossible to set up a trap on this trade, Arthur. We've said it so many times because of the inconsistency in the size of the move every month. It's really difficult. to figure out what the trap should be. And it's always so easy after the trade to say that should have been a trap. I wish I had $1 for every time we say that should have been a trap after the news. Hang on 1 second, folks. I just wanted to get the charts here. The news result.
Gains after the jobs data and last up spot 1%. 2-year yields falling after the data as well. It last at 4.094%. Eurozone
So if you look at the news result,
as well. Germany 10-year up spot 5 basis points, around 2.11%.
the major news, the most important number was pretty bullish. 227,000 jobs. They were expecting 202. Participation rate almost the same. Unemployment changes, that was Canada, forget that for the moment. It was a pretty bullish report. We just did not get a solid move in one direction. If you don't get a good move in one direction, then you don't get a good event. It's just the way that it works. We just didn't get a good, solid move. And if you look at a very small time frame chart, a very small time frame chart, if you look at a 1 second, at the exact moment of the trade, you can often see a whip if there's a whip. Now, today's 1 second chart is not that helpful.
So Canadian swaps markets now, so that's Canadian swaps markets seeing 65% chance of a 50 basis point
Because our orders would have gone on the chart
from 58% before
right in this area, right in this area. Now, who traded, I'm just wondering, who traded prop with gold? Who traded prop with gold? Anybody? Besides myself? Anyone besides myself? And Greg, what was your result? Same as mine?
So US2 10-year Treasury yield curve steepens after payrolls data, last at 5.6 basis
Almost
points.
everybody allows news
Fitch ratings
news
staying
these
friendly
days,
government
Liz.
collapse
Everybody
amid
has
political
relaxed
and
their rules.
budgetary uncertainty.
Apex allows news. Buell Knox allows news. Lilu allows news. It seems like everybody allows news. Yeah, I'm not seeing a whip on the 1 second chart. So I would look at a one range on gold. It might be too small. It might be too small. I'm looking at a 3 range on gold. I want to see if I can see where our
So Canada's 10-year yield extends declines after
I
the
want to
jobs
see if I
data,
can
down 5
see.
basis
Okay,
points
so
to
here's the move.
0.29%.
So here's the problem. Here's what happened. Here's what happened. If you go down to a much smaller time frame, you can see what happened. Smaller than a second. You got to go smaller than a second. So I'm on a 3 range, chart,
So Saudi energy
and my
minister Saad
fill
tells CNBC that
was up
OPEC Plus
here at
demonstrated yesterday how flexible we are as a
2661.40.
group.
and the price went down 35 ticks. It went down more than 35. I think
And
a
Saudi Energy
50,
Minister says there is a separation between the
50,
fundamentals and the
if you're willing
sentiments
to
from
take the
different
risk, we
parties.
need to go with a 50 to a 60 tick stop. So I think going forward, I'm going to definitely increase the stop on this report.
And Saudi Energy Minister says we have
We didn't
double
need much
tasked
more of
with
a
attending
stop
to
to survive
fundamentals and
today.
putting together something that mitigates negative
It got
sentiments.
stopped right
We
here,
honestly
and it
believe the
only
market
went
next year will be
a
better
couple
than
of
what is
ticks
being
beyond that.
projected.
The original stop was 35, 35 ticks. That's not that big. It's not that big for this particular report. It's not that big. Did anybody trade bonds in cash? Did anyone trade bonds in cash? Yeah, it's $10 a tick, correct. Anybody trade bonds with cash? Frank, you did not have a winning trade? Okay. Looking at ZN, again on a small time frame. I'm not going to see my orders because my orders were not on a live account. So they'll show up in SIM, but trading SIM on a report like this doesn't tell you very much. It doesn't give you a true reading. So you got to go with the cash traders. If a cash trader says they lost in cash, then that's what you have to go with. It just was not a good follow through move. Let's take a look at the video. Take a look at the video. Not even a lot of activity after the news. You know, there's the 1 minute candle on bonds. So you could see it's a whippy candle on bonds. And then the gold candle, the gold trade candle,
So Saudi Energy Minister says the
you
best
know,
quarter is not a
you
good
had to
quarter
go
for
to
building
that
volume,
smaller time
as it is
frame
known for building
to
stocks.
understand why it
80% of
got
our
stopped.
decision was
And it
because of
only
that.
needed a little bit bigger stop. I will never use a stop less than 50 on this report again, ever, ever. And I would even consider, look, what I would consider even a bigger stop
So Nick Timoreos on
because I'd
X says the
rather,
3-month moving average of US private
it'll give
sector
you more
revenue
winners. There's
ticked
no
up to
question. The bigger
138,000
stop
in
will give
November,
us
the
more
highest
winners.
since May.
All right. I want to thank everybody on YouTube. I'm going to close our YouTube stream, but I'm going to review the trade some more. Mark, we often trade with a cash account. We're just working on our cash account in January. We'll be back trading with a cash account. It probably would have been a loss today, trading cash. I don't think it would have been a winner, but every trade is a lesson learned. And it's extremely frustrating when your stop is so close, but just a little bit too small to give you a safe trade. That can be very, very, very frustrating.
As the dollar in the wake of US non-farm
But thanks everybody for watching us on YouTube, and I'll see everybody on YouTube next week. So thanks everyone, and members stay in the room. Let's take a look at exactly what happened. And we will be streaming again next week as well. Next week is actually